Beautiful people, what's up? It's your boy Smith the speaker. Welcome to my channel. You already see my beautiful young sis right here next to me. You know what we're
Hey
doing. So
y'all.
before we get going, I just want to let you guys know what happened last week. We had a lot. Sis was on a mission, and
Sorry,
and
y'all.
she was doing some profound work as usual. Prolific. I'm not sure why I've been using the word prolific a lot, but when I'm in the presence of Black people doing great things, it is prolific in that sense. So
Thank
understand
you.
that. So we both mutually agreed we was going to skip next our last week, just to revitalize and take some time and not be rushed. Just want to give it to you the right way, and not have it watered down. We don't do it like that. No chaser around here. Straight. You know what I'm saying?
Straight up.
Yeah, sis, you feeling good today?
Oh yeah, I feel great. I
Okay.
feel I feel blessed, man. Blessed to be here.
Okay. And so before we get going, hit the like button, hit the subscribe, do what you do, share it with your folks. This is part 4 of the Black Dollar. The energy, the wisdom that sis is bestowing on you from the graces of our heart, man. I hope you guys are taking notes, and if not, you can replay it and check it out. I just want to go over a couple things really quick. We talked about the Dow Jones and S&P and Nasdaq and all of that good stuff. And what's crazy is I'm sure if you're not watching and up with the politics and the finances, man, the stocks took a crash today. it was an ugly situation. You know what I'm saying? The Dow was down like 900 or something crazy like that. It's down to 41,000. S&P is down to 5,000. Nasdaq is down to 17,000. Don't worry. You know what I'm saying? I'm like this. If if
Buy
if
low,
if
sell
if
high.
it's going low, man, you better jump in there and buy some of that cheap stuff right now. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, we talked about being an expert at money. Practice makes perfect. You know what I'm saying? And understanding, a fluctuating economy, which we're actually in right now, like sis was talking about last time, the ups and
Yes.
downs, ups and downs. But it's not about the timing; it's about the
Right.
time in. You know what
Yep.
I'm saying? So you understand that. And then before we get today and the wrap up, me and sis, if you don't know, we had our first in-person human-like meeting. I got to meet sis. It was crazy. We was at the
Yes.
Oakland Black Joy Parade. Shout out Oakland, man. Y'all turned up. I was
Whoa.
so proud to be there looking at my city. You know what I'm saying? And I'm standing there just taking in the vibe. And I see this young Black lady walking by, and I say, sis.
I was like, I know that voice.
Right. And I can't tell you how wonderful it was, sis, to see you in person. That means a lot. I know we're in a world of technology and virtual stuff, but ain't nothing like seeing you, hugging you, greeting
Right.
you, custom traditionally hugging. Hey,
Right.
sis, nice to meet you. You know what I'm
I
saying?
know,
So
like nice to see
right.
you.
It was amazing. What did you take out of this? Sis? I know we got to get to the business at hand, but what did you
Man.
take out the parade?
Out of the Black Joy Parade, it was exactly what the name is. Like
Yes.
we had kids out there double dutching. We had OGs on electric skateboards made like scraper cars. So when they stand in it, it looked like they standing out the roof of a scraper car. I
Yes.
mean, you had dance and cheer teams, you had frats and sororities,
Mhm.
strolling through the
Mhm.
parade. You had black and brown, really a lot of black kids
Yes.
out there with their floats, decorated by hand. We had small black businesses. You
Mhm.
had elected officials like Barbara Lee and leaders of like the Oakland African American Chamber of Commerce, Kathy Adams. We had also the NAACP president, President Cynthia
Mhm.
Adams. She was out there
Mhm.
like it was just so much greatness. You had Miss Joyce Gordon from Joyce Gordon's Gallery. She has been been a staple in downtown Oakland, right? And
right.
she's literally just now closing the doors to the gallery, but staying open for community space. But just spaces like that, we gotta support. So when you come out to the parade and you get there early and at first it's cold and your fingers,
Right.
trying to get your float together, but then you start to see one person pop up, two-person pop up, people pop up the street, get a little bit lively, and you're like, oh man,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
feels good to be Black
Yeah.
today. I
Yeah.
dare
Yeah.
somebody to tell me anything
Right.
other. Like I walked around like this all day, all week, all month. It's still
Right.
lingering. Like I
Right.
feel like I got gassed up almost to be all right to be me, which sucks.
Say that. Say
It
that.
sucks because we should feel that proud every
Yes.
single day.
Yes.
Like we should have so much value just oozing out of our pores that we
Mm,
feel like we can
mm,
walk around like this every day.
mm.
But it's crazy that was one of the very few times where you genuinely feel in solidarity with your people, where from the time the sun come up to the time it went down, we were partying in downtown Oakland.
Absolutely.
Where your whole
Absolutely.
family can come and they got jumpers for the kids, and then
Yeah.
they set up the booths afterwards for you to just walk in and through community and see what arts are being made and
Mm,
see
mm.
what drummer gonna be walking through the crowd, just because that's the Black vibe, right? Like it's all the things you are so proud of in terms of your Black culture that
Yeah.
any other day people will look at you crazy. But on
Yeah.
this day, people want to come take pictures and they want to be around and put it on the gram and
Yeah.
everything else. But it's like we need to be that proud every single day to rock Afro puffs
Say
and
that.
wear your hair natural and just come out in your shorts and a tank top, not trying to be too cute, just hanging
Right.
out. Like you see what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
it should be
Yeah.
like that all the time, straight up double dutch. I'm
Y-
telling
Well, I want to say you summed it up perfectly.
you.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
I walked. I
Mm.
walked. But I walked from what's that, 12th and Jefferson all the way over to Grand and back again.
Mhm.
Circle downtown, Broadway. And I told my most beautiful, the last time, sis, I was ever
Hmm.
at a parade in Oakland. My mother took me when the Raiders won the Super Bowl back in like 81 or whenever that was. And
What?
it was the vibe was still the same. I still remember the
Oh.
buildings. They look the same. Now the names have changed,
Ooh, yeah.
but the buildings look the same. I remember being a little boy and just all the people. And when I was out there walking, I'm like, man, look at my folks, man.
Mm.
We so beautiful. You know what I'm saying? We so intelligent. We
Yes.
so inspirational. You
Yes.
know, it was very calming for me. It was very calming. But I know we got to get. I want to. So
Yeah.
there was a few storefronts that were open and
Uh-huh.
available for work or for a future entrepreneur. I want your thoughts on this so we can hop into the business at hand.
Okay.
And me and my most beautiful talked about it on the way home.
Mm-hmm.
I think my revolutionary spirit. I'm so happy that we have Black folks with storefronts,
Right.
but I want us to own the building.
The whole block. Forget the building.
Thank you. Thank you. And I see Dame. I know Dame is starting some downtown projects.
Yeah.
I know my boy Brown over at the Celtics, he's starting some downtown projects. But I
Yeah.
want the movement to own the block.
Mhm.
That's what I want. That's what I want,
Absolutely.
sis.
Absolutely. And I feel that. And I think that's why, like, we could talk about concepts all day, but
Mhm.
authentically, the reason that I got my financial advisory licenses is because I felt like I was already shut out of what I felt like I had worked for and deserved. So it was
Yeah.
like, I'm not going to ever be without. And now that I have them, like when it comes to financial advisory licenses, when it comes to mortgage loan origination licenses, like I got those. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But like
Mhm.
I don't have them so that I could go make $1 million. Would that be nice? Awesome. Yes. Okay. I can leave a legacy. But I really have them because it's like, ooh, once I get mine, then I can help somebody else get their property and they ain't gonna have to jump through these redlining hoops, right? They're
Right.
not gonna have to
Right.
deal with the person that's gonna judge them just because part of their income really do come from a previous relationship and they just got it like that. Or maybe, you know, like they still share property or
Yeah.
something. And you're not gonna
Yeah.
judge me because I'm a single mom or whatever it is. And even though that's illegal for you to do, you do it as soon as I come through the door and make up another reason as to why it's not that, even though it is.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
like I just
Absolutely.
like the reason I got the licenses was because I felt like it give us the access to create our own black privilege.
Hmm.
Like I heard that phrase somewhere and it just stuck with me. I'm like, how can I help my people create
Yeah.
privilege? Like privilege that is our own, so that we
Yes.
know whenever we need something, there is somebody in my immediate atmosphere that can do it, get it, help me find it. Like there is somebody that can serve that need, that looks like me, that talk like me, that walk like me, that think like me. Not
Yep.
literally
Yep.
the same thoughts, but we share lived experience so you can truly understand my perspective. So like that's like when I think about corporate dollars and I think about the bottom line don't ever include the black person. I promise you it don't.
Oh, for
Because
sure.
when I sit down and I think about how I want to build out my business, it's literally shunned upon for me to focus on the person that might only have 25 to $50 a month to start their
Hmm.
portfolio. They're
Hmm.
told, we're told, go find that person, because you need to help them, right? But if you ain't found enough of them people to hit the bottom line, then it's like, nah, forget about them people, go find your big fish,
Right.
go find your big dollar,
Right.
right? And
Right.
for me, I'm like, but wait a minute, then black dollars, which are a little small right now because we got burned down at the beginning of the 1900s. When prior to that, we had a whole bunch in place, hotels and manufacturers, and there were doctors and lawyers and everybody that looked like me, but you burned our stuff down. So yeah, we starting a little behind everybody else. So can you give me just a little bit of grace? But like that, it never happens.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
never
And
happens.
we're gonna get to the business right now. I had a phenomenal conference I just attended last
Mm,
week, and I sent you some of the
mm,
information, but two gentlemen, older gentlemen, was just dropping so much game, it was ridiculous.
mm.
I'll share that later, but I want to get to the business at hand since I don't want to hold you. I know
Yes.
we're running a little late. So, ladies and gentlemen, the Black Dollar, sis, take it away. It's all yours.
Hey man, how y'all doing? Look, I didn't already started on a rant tonight. Didn't already start talking about how we didn't got burnt down 120 years ago, huh? I'm not playing, man. It's a real serious thing. I was sitting up and look, I might as well just share my screen with y'all. I was sitting up, and for those of y'all who are like watching live on the video, I had put together just a bit of information that I thought could be pretty cool to share. And it's around Black Wall Street. And for me, I mean, just being transparent, I'm what, 38 years old. And so when I look at where I am currently in life, like there's a lot that I do not know, that I still have to learn, that, is a part of my history, but maybe it hasn't been put in front of me. And I don't know if y'all are like me, but I mean, if we could be transparent, we don't know everything, right? So the best way for us to learn something is for us to sometimes go seek it out if there's nobody there that can actually, give you the information that it is that you're looking for. So for me, when I think about like our black dollar, and when I really think about like everything that we've gone through, the different struggles that we've come up against, the hurdles we've had to jump through, I think about how do we come back around to today to like really empower ourselves. And I know I got to wrap up on the life insurance piece with y'all because that was the last part of just making sure that your foundation and your financial house is taken care of. But I thought that it was important just to share a little bit of this because I don't think we give ourselves enough credit in regards to what we've been able to build, together as a people. Like we can do some phenomenal stuff individually, of course. Like everybody is made to be, genius in their own way. But when we think about overcoming, when we think about what already was, I mean, there was already a place that existed with Black people who were thriving, in community together, where there wasn't an excess amount of violence and there wasn't, one person feeling like, well, you got more than me. So, let me tear you down so that I can get mine. No, in the early 1900s, the late 1800s, there was an entire community, Black Wall Street, right? In Tulsa, Oklahoma, where there were Black people who were genuinely thriving. And when we say there were doctors, lawyers. There were people who literally owned entire businesses that took up an entire district. And so when we talk about the doctors of those times, we talk about Dr. Jackson, right? And like, if you're looking at my screen, you can see he's a nationally renowned surgeon, and he lived in Greenwood, which was that area of Tulsa, Oklahoma. So for me, I look at this, and as a Black woman, you don't see very many Black women who are doctors. You really don't see Black men as doctors either. And to know that we're a hop, skip, and a jump out of, really being able to get an education in open space, but to know that doctors existed then that looked like me, it's like, okay, am I really doing everything that I possibly can to keep myself out of the quicksand and to be able to build for my family? Because there were people who were building back then, right? I mean, there were trends. There were trends of a real businessman who look, walk, talk, act like both you and I. And when you think about property in a way that it was obtained then, okay, no, it wasn't as easy. And no, we had to jump through a whole lot more hoops. And yes, we do still deal with like racial segregation now. But when I think about it, like if the Black man and woman can move out of the space of slavery, they can overcome the racial segregation that existed on a daily basis, where literally paperwork torn up and burned, wood that's put in front of your house to build your house is stolen or burned. But they can still grow community in Savannah. They can still grow community in Atlanta, in the heart of where the KKK moved, shook and groove, right? So like you think about that, and then you think about our leaders and our pioneers, like, W.E.B. Du Bois, like these are people who genuinely had to fight a fight that was in a lot of ways tougher than ours. So like when I think about our Black dollar, what we're doing with it on a daily basis, like I get that we're frustrated. I get that our mental health is tattered. I get that, prior to this year, we didn't have, or to this, decade, this century, we didn't have the access that we did, but we have access now. We have access to be owners of stores, to be doctors, to be lawyers, to be physicians, to be, astronomers, to be artists, to be a babysitter if you want to, or to be a deadbeat, right? So when we talk about the Black dollar, like, are you really standing on the shoulders of those who fought for you? Because this right here is a diagram that was put together by W.E.B. Du Bois, and it really shows the growth in professions across the African American community. And when you look at just the colors, you don't even have to know what the actual professions are. You can see that there were some professions that grew more than others, right? And so if you were to look at the picture, you see, okay, in this yellow space, that right there is the profession of a grocer. So as soon as the Black man had the opportunity to earn a dollar, it's like, okay, let me get this low hanging fruit, and becoming a grocer was something that was easy to do. You don't have to read much. If you a bag boy or you're going to go get carts, you don't really have to know how to read what's in a book on a receipt or anything like that in terms of labeling on a can. So where does our Black dollar begin? Yes, way before slavery, but where did it get caught up? Where did it get burned? To and through slavery, even after slavery, right? So now that we're out of it, what can we do in order to be better? Because when I look at this right here, when I look at the fact that there were grocers, yes, the fact that there were bankers, very few, and then you have like your buildings, your contractors, and people who works in loan and associations. Of all these professions, bankers and those who worked in loans and association were the fewest of all professions. Money, the thing that control our whole economy. So if we were very few then, and we still see a trend of us being very few now, how do we change our financial future if none of us are willing to gain the knowledge, at least to a professional standpoint? Even if you don't become a professional in that industry, does your knowledge reflect that you have professional type knowledge around that particular area? Because unless you can have professional type knowledge, you can't master the subject. And if you can't master your money, you can't master your life, not on earth. So it's one of those things where, okay, you look at where we were versus where we are now. And in some ways we've changed, we've moved, but in other ways we have not. Even down to this information right here, right? When you look at the different professions that were taken on, and you look at the top of my fan versus the bottom of my fan, and you have Negro professions at the top and whites at the bottom, you'll see that in terms of like domestic professions where you were maybe a houseboy, house girl, a servant, or you were literally a personal servant to someone else. 28% of the African American population served in that particular realm, where the other 82% were literally working in agriculture or working as fishermen or working in a mining where they literally had to deal with respiratory issues, right? And very few, literally less than a percent, were professionals in their industry. So when you think about that compared to the white man and where we were versus where we are not too far removed. There are less than 5% of financial professionals that are actually African American. And it's even slimmer when you look at those who are women, right? So when I think about our black dollar, when I think about our money, when I think about the impact, when I think about everything that we go through, I have to ask myself, am am I willing to continue to walk the same career paths that have been walked, that have led our people to not having a legacy? Am I willing to not take a risk on myself and my black dollar? Do I not have a faith, like have enough faith in my own black dollar that I can grow, that I can scale my own black dollar, right? Because they always say you don't know where you're going until you know where you've been. Well, look, at Greenwood, literally, there was over 600 Black-owned businesses, 21 churches, 21 restaurants, 30 grocery stores, 2 movie theaters, 6 private airplanes, and a hospital. There were banks, there were post office, there were libraries, there were schools, there were law offices, and over half a dozen private residences, all owned by Black people, and they were all burned down. So if you want to know where we have the potential to go, then we also have to know where we've been, right? So when I think about what I want to do with my black dollar, I could own a restaurant, but do I want to put in that much labor? Probably not. I could own a theater. I'm a movie goer. I would sure love to have a plane. You see what I'm saying? Or maybe I want to own the 40 acres and a mule. Maybe I really do want to buy land instead of renting, right? Maybe I want to own a hotel like JB Stratford. Maybe I want to do the same things that my people have already done, but continue to be hidden from me, or just not implicitly and intentionally put in front of me, so that I know the power that I actually have, or so that I know the lineage that I actually come from, right? Because when you think about the amount of property and the dollar value that's correlated with everything that was burned down in the early 1900s, that's something that we will never escape. We talked about compounding interest in this theory. I mean, in this entire series. And when you think about it, back then, it was worth only $750,000, right? About $750,000 in personal property, and then 1.5 in real estate. But in today's dollars, because of inflation, that's $32 million worth of wealth. So imagine if that $32 million was just distributed amongst a couple families. I mean, if 32 African American families just had an extra $1 million, I'm just saying, not saying that everybody would do the right thing, but with compounding interest, we'd be okay. At least we wouldn't be starting years behind the people who we are said that we need to be like, right? So it's like it's almost impossible to catch up and be like someone if you were already starting at a disadvantage. And when you look at how big the disadvantage is now, our black dollar don't hold a candle in terms of what we actually hold in wealth and power compared to white households. So if you look at the past literally 100 years, from 1920 all the way till now, you could see the black dollar from 0 to $50,000. Okay, that's awesome. But then when you look at the wealth gap and you look at how big it is now, the wealth disparity, 50,000, 150,000, 200, 250, 300, 350, $400,000, right? Minus the 50, that's $350,000 wealth gap, give or take a couple dollars. So when you think about it, what would our government, what would our state, what would need to happen in order for us to quote unquote catch up? Like, What would we need to do? And that's a real question, because the only way we catch up is if we're made whole. And in order to be made whole, it's a lot of households that got to be taken care of. If the average median income for a white household is $400,000, but the average median income for a black household is $50,000, that means each black household would need to be given $350,000 just to catch them up. But that's not even talking about all the generational wealth that has been lost out on. So, how do you really make a people whole, right? So, when we think about the wealth gap, when we think about everything that we have to deal with, it could be a little bit depressing. But at the end of the day, what you gonna do? I mean, we gonna be, a crying dog on a bed of nails, or we gonna get up and we gonna get busy. So that's why learning the financial concepts, that I'm working to put in front of you and that I'm really here to share is one of those things that we can't take lightly and that we shouldn't take lightly, because at the end of the day, if we take it lightly, we run the risk of missing the boat. And the crazy thing is, they say all boats rise with the tide. And it's like, if the people around you are getting educated, if the people around you are becoming knowledgeable um, in regards to money and how it works in our economy, then who are you to not? Who are you to not seek the knowledge and the information, right? And so some people say, well, man, Steph, I ain't got time to go look up that information. I'm in debt. I just need to take care of it. Let me just take care of the debt piece, right? Well, let me tell you something. If you keep focusing on the debt and you never focus on the growth, you're gonna miss the boat entirely. It might take you 10, 15 years to get out of debt, but can you save a couple dollars simultaneously? Because the moment you get out of debt might be the moment that you retire. And just because you're supposed to retire at a certain age, retirement is not an age, it's a dollar amount. So if you never put away a couple dollars from yourself for yourself, you're gonna find yourself in trouble. And at least if you put a couple dollars away while working towards paying off your debt, the money that you're putting away can begin to work for itself because it's going to collect interest. So putting together a debt plan is something that you most certainly have to do, because just these basic facts, and I believe I shared these with y'all, but when it comes to black borrowers and when it comes to student loan debt and when it comes to how much we owe versus white borrowers, yeah, it's only about $5,000 more, but it adds up. And if you think about the number of students who actually don't have to borrow money in a white household versus a black household, that comparison is drastically different. So, you just want to make sure that you're understanding the power of compound interest, how it affects you on a good side and a bad side. Because when it comes to debt, when it comes to loans, when it comes to credit cards, mortgages, that's when your compounding interest works against you. Okay. So the one thing that, I really want to tap into is helping you understand debt stacking. And the reason that this is important is because when we wrap up with the life insurance piece tonight, what you got to understand, and I'm going to go forward to come back. Life insurance is a protection piece, right? The only reason we have life insurance is because we need to borrow somebody else's wealth until we have our own. Meaning, if we have debt, we got credit card bills in that batch, mortgage in that batch, car loans in that batch, student loans in that batch. If we were to pass away and we have debt, who has to take care of that debt? Yeah, family, your next of kin. And so if your next of kin is your child or your spouse, rather than leaving them with security, you leave them with insecurity, right? If you don't have income protection or what we call life insurance. So I went forward to come back because the life insurance piece is important, even more important while you're working to get out of debt. Some people say, oh, I don't have enough money to spend on my life insurance because I'm working on paying off my debt. No, no, no. We got our thinking backwards. We got to think the opposite. I need this life insurance because I'm in debt. Not I can't get this life insurance because I'm in debt. That doesn't make any sense. The reason you have the life insurance is to protect your family against what you don't have to leave behind for them right now. So the reason you have 100,000, 200, 500, $1 million in coverage is because you don't have that much money in cash or in your investment accounts saved up yet. But the reason that you have investment accounts and you save in those investment accounts, even while paying for your life insurance outside of those investment accounts, is because you're going to get to a point where you do have enough money to be self insured. There are actually some people who move this whole lifetime without any life insurance because if something happened, there's enough money to not only take care of their final expenses, but to leave their family in good fashion. That's money that they've earned or that they have a system of collecting residual income so they don't have to worry about the rest, right? So when it comes to paying off our debt, we want to do it as soon as possible. We want to have a plan and a system in place, but we also have to make sure that we're thinking about the other pieces, even at their bare minimum value. Because the longer we wait to put them in place, the longer or the more of a hindrance they become in the future. So when it comes to tackling our debt, we definitely want to take a look at a couple different things. You want to look at how much the total balance is on that particular account. You want to look at how much the minimum payment is on that account. You want to look at the interest rate that you may be being charged on that account. And then you also want to look at how you might be affected by making additional payments on that particular account because some companies will charge you a fee for paying credit off early. So that's something that you want to be mindful of, which sounds backwards, but it literally happens because they figure, well, man, we're not going to be able to collect interest as long. So we just going to charge you a penalty up front for paying it off early. So that's kind of like us being able to collect our interest without collecting interest that we really didn't wait for. So you want to be mindful when it comes to debt stacking. We're going to stack up all of the bills and we're going to look at everything that's past due. Yeah, we're going to look at the minimum payment, but our goal is really to try and pay more than that minimum payment. Because if I have 5 bills lined up and I look at, okay, which one can I pay off first? That might be my retail credit card. So I'm going to make all of my payments for my bills each month because I don't want to just leave them be. That negatively affects my credit. But once I pay this first bill all the way off, so I'm paying 220 each month and now it's finally paid off. Instead of me pocketing that 220 and acting like nothing, like I don't have anything else to put it on, now I'm gonna roll it over into my second bill that's still being paid. So now, whereas before on my second retail card, on my second credit card, I might have been paying, say, $350. Now I'm gonna pay $570 because I added the other 220. So when you debt stack, or what some people call snowball, you help yourself get out of debt faster, right? And so when it comes to debt stacking, when it comes to you being able to take care of your debt faster, you want to do it in this way because if you don't and you only continue to make the minimum payments and then once you pay one off, you just only worry about the others, never increasing what you're putting towards them, you ultimately pay more interest in the end. But if you stack it, you could pay it off sooner and you'll end up paying less interest, but you'll still be putting out the same amount of money every single month in debt payments. But because you stacked it and you were willing to put the same amount of money out, you end up paying off your debt in much better fashion. So when it comes to getting out of debt, when it comes to making sure you maintain good credit practices, the one thing I always tell people is don't get credit that you can't handle. If you're excited to swipe your card, you don't need the credit. If you're already thinking about what you can buy before you get the credit card in the mail or before you even apply, you don't need it. If you can't spend less than 30% in value of that credit card, you don't need it. A lot of mistakes that people make in terms of their credit is they just don't value it. And then even if they do get a credit card, they'll max it out, spending more than 30%. Or sometimes they just raise the credit limits unnecessarily. And then they don't monitor the credit to pay it off in time. So now it negatively affects their overall credit score. And if you're not monitoring those things and you're not understanding how your actions can ultimately affect you, you find yourself in a real bad situation when it comes to apply for additional credit for apartments, for houses, for cars, for personal loans, for business loans, for things that you might need that has to go under your name and social, right? So really knowing and understanding the way that your interest is affecting you when it comes to getting out of debt is a major thing because I'm sure somebody out there, you have had a credit card or some form of credit and you went to make that minimum payment and the next month you got that bill in the mail and the bill was more than it was before you made the payment. and you trying to figure out, how does my overall balance keep going up and I just made a payment? It's because the rule of 72 that we talked about like 2 sessions ago is working against you. Now what you owe is starting to compound, and it's compounding fast because the interest that you're being charged is on the total account balance, not just on that new amount that they credited, not just on last month's fees. It's on the entire account balance. So that's why it's important for you to be mindful when you're in debt or when you're trying to get out of debt of what type of debt you have. Is it revolving, right? Or is it debt that you just gonna pay off and be done with? Because some debt is what we would call quote unquote good debt, right? And then you have debt that literally eats you alive. So that introductory credit card, that's 29.99%. That's no good. That's gonna eat you alive. But if you can go get an interest-free credit card for the first year, and after that you have no annual fees, and you got a cashback rewards program every time you buy gas or groceries, and your interest rate on that credit card is like 3-4%, you winning. You see what I'm saying? So there's a right way and a wrong way to do everything, even credit. Not to mention, an extension of credit is really just, it shows your ability to be responsible in the financial arena when you are able to get credit, right? So what I would say is, as you're working to get out of debt, as you're working to build your credit, as you're working to make sure that these things are set for your family, make sure that you have protections in place while you're working on those things, because you could be so active and so diligent and have like the best plan in place, but if you the one executing the plan, or even if you executing it in partnership with somebody who you are in relationship, and now you're no longer here, that person now has to take care of everything that you were taking care of. So whereas it might have been two households, I mean, two incomes coming into the household, now it's just going to be one, right? So you got to ask yourself right now at this point in your life, what things do you insure? Most people, they insure their phones because they got $1,000 plus device, right? Most people going to insure their house because if it's a flood, a fire, somebody break in, something like that, they want to make sure, wait a minute, this is a $300,000 house, $500,000 house, $1 million house. I need to insure this because if something happens, I don't have $1 million in the bank to rebuild my house. So I'm leveraging out the risk to an insurance company to be able to take care of it for me just in case something happens. So you can replace a car, you can replace a phone, you can replace a house, but you cannot replace your life. You can only replace the income associated with your life. So the life insurance piece is to be able to replace the financial presence that you have with your family. So that way they don't end up in turmoil. Now, some people say, I can't afford life insurance. Well, can you afford to not have life insurance? Because if you don't have it, your family now has nowhere to live, or maybe they have a limited number of months or years before they have to figure out where else they're going to live. And all the things that you had in place to give them a great life are now going to change because you're not here to provide that level of lifestyle anymore. So the life insurance should be thought of as something that shouldn't be a permanent need, y'all. And I think this is where we kind of get it messed up. Like when life insurance was first brought onto the scene of financial, like building, it was something that was used as a basic black and white protection. And then once companies realize, well, wait a minute, we can protect people, but they also need to save and invest. Okay, let's give them the option to do that inside of their life insurance, because typically people really aren't that diligent in saving their own money. So we're going to let them do it inside of their life insurance policy. But because we're managing it all, there's just going to be certain rules and things like that they're going to have to follow. But don't worry, they'll still be able to have their coverage, right? Well, most people get caught up in that and they just say, well, I just trust the insurance company for my whole life. So as long as I got it intact to the day that I die, my family should be taken care of because that's the promise that the agent told me. Okay. You can believe the person if you want, or you can understand the theory behind how life insurance should actually work. So, because we know life insurance is only meant to be for temporary need, not permanent, and it's only meant to be there for as long as it takes for us to build up our own personal financial security. We know that we don't need to pay a life insurance bill for the rest of our life because that means that we're technically signing off to be in debt to a company for our entire life. Every time you send in a premium payment, you're literally paying to borrow wealth that you don't have. But if you are diligent in what it is that you do, if you can see the screen that I have up, there's a line that shows your money growing over time. Just imagine a graph and it starts low and it goes high. That's your money growing over time. You getting older in life, you understanding that, okay, I make more money, I save more money, my wealth is growing. That's awesome. But then there's another line that starts high and ends low. And it crosses with the first line that I just described. And the line that starts high and ends low is actually your need for life insurance. When you're younger in life, you have a higher need for life insurance because you might have children, you might be married, you might be a homeowner or in the process of, you have financial responsibilities around the house, you have maybe some debt, you have all these financial responsibilities whereby if you were not here anymore, these responsibilities still require finances. So your need for life insurance is high because if something were to happen, the life insurance takes care of all those things in your absence, in your physical absence, right? But as you get older, your children gonna grow up, your house should be close to paid off, your debt should be paid off, and really any other financial responsibilities that you had should now start to fade, and you should be on your way to financial freedom. So now, in the event that you pass away, you don't have all of these financial responsibilities looming. You literally have a couple of investment accounts, maybe a pension. If you don't have a pension, maybe you have an annuity. But you have some really awesome financial instruments that aren't taking money from you, but rather now working to be in a position to give you money once you retire. So you don't need life insurance because if something were to happen, the family's taken care of by everything that you saved. So at this point, we honestly should be getting rid of the life insurance, which means we can get rid of the bill. And the money that we were spending on the life insurance, which might be 50, 100, $250, can now also go into the investment accounts. So the theory of decreasing responsibility says that by theory, my responsibility should decrease as I get older. I love my children. They can come over for dinner. They can even come grocery shopping in my kitchen, but you don't live with me anymore. So I'm not responsible for your household and I'm not responsible for how you retire. Yes, I got you to college, but that's where my financial responsibilities really truly end outside of anything that I saved in a trust fund for you to be able to help set your family up, right? But my goal is for me to retire properly. And the only way I do that is by properly setting up my finances. So we have many different financial professionals that you can tap in with, right? And then you have the names that you always see on TV, like the Dave Ramsey, the Susie Orman, the Jane Bryan Quinn. You know, you have all these people. And quite honestly, they all agree that life insurance is only meant to be a for a temporary need and not meant to be had for your entire life. So you have to ask yourself right now at this point, can I borrow money from my life insurance policy? If so, I just might have the wrong type. Was I told that I would need to pay on my policy, basically to the day that I pass away? If so, I might need to get this evaluated. Was I told that money builds up in my policy and that I could possibly use it to retire or to send my kids to college? You might need to talk to somebody. If your life insurance is being used for anything other than paying for final expenses, and if at any point you feel, know, or believe you can take money out of your policy while you're alive, you should talk to someone. And the reason being is because the life insurance that you should have should be very black and white. You should not be able to borrow from it. You should not be able to you just shouldn't be able to pull money from it. Bottom line, it's only there in the case that someone passes away. And the reason being is because when you put yourself in a position where you do have the type of life insurance that you can borrow against, now you have what we call cash value life insurance, right? Or permanent life insurance, whole life insurance. You've probably heard it called universal life insurance or index universal life insurance, or for short, IUL. You've probably heard all these different types of products and things, right? Regardless of what type of product it is, you have temporary insurance, you have permanent insurance. You can be permanently in debt or you can permanently borrow somebody else's wealth until you get your own, right? If you are going to borrow wealth, it's going to cost you 50 cents on the dollar compared to you literally buying permanent wealth, where you are paying a bill for the rest of your life. When you have to pay for cash value insurance, whole life insurance, you are going to pay twice as much as what you pay for term insurance, which means that's less money you can now put into your investment account. That further means that if you are paying, say, for instance, 50 cents on the dollar for term versus twice as much for the cash value, you're going to get less in cash value insurance than what you would get on a term policy. Now, some people say, well, Steph, why do I want to get term insurance? It's going to expire on me when I need it the most. And I will say, okay, pause me, rewind me, listen to me again. You will not need life insurance for your whole life if you have life insurance intact for your family and you also have your investment portfolio intact for your family. You need both, but they need to be independent of one another. Because when you have cash value life insurance, the one that you can borrow from, there's 5 things you're going to be able to find in a cash value policy. You'll always be able to find where they held your money for the first 2 to 5 years. So you get a statement in the mail or via email. You got to pay X amount of dollars every single month. You send that payment in. Part of it is for insurance. Part of it is for the cash value savings account. You don't realize that for the first 2 to 5 years, there's no money going into the cash value savings account because that account remains at zero because they need to pay administrative fees and the agent who wrote the policy, so on and so forth. So the first rule is that you get got for the first 2 to 5 years. And then once you feel like, oh, okay, I'm okay. I know I got, but I'm going to just stick with it because I done already been with it for 5 years. That's typically what happens. Then you realize that they only giving you 1 to 4% on the money that's being saved in the cash value account. Now, they still ain't told you that that money really not yours, but you kind of excited because you're getting 1 to 4%, which is better than your bank. But if you go back to the rule of 72, 72 divided by 1 gives you 72, which means that every 72 years, the money in that cash value account would double. Or even at every 4 years, you see what I'm saying? That's still every 18 years that your money would double at 4%. Excuse me. So it's one of those things where you got for the first 2 to 5 years. They only give you 1 to 4% on the money that's being saved in the cash value account. And then they charge you 6 to 8% to borrow your money out of the cash value account when you need it to retire, quote unquote, to send your kid to college, right? So why are you paying to borrow your own money? It doesn't make any sense. And then when you go to request the money, they can make you wait up to 6 months. There's a clause in the life insurance policy, in the cash value policy, in the loan section. So if you have cash value, go pull out the policy. I promise you, and then call me. It's going to say, we may defer making a loan payment for up to 6 months unless loan proceeds are being used to make past due premium payments to us. Your loan value may never exceed the cash value, or you forfeit your life insurance policy. So I suggest you go to the loan section and you take a look at that if you have cash value, because that is something that genuinely hurts families. Furthermore, think about things like Hurricane Katrina, 9/11, even down to people getting laid off. When they need their money, they need their money. So if a company can make you wait 6 months to get your money when you request it, but they're willing to, quote unquote, give it to you immediately, if you're using it to pay a premium to them that you missed, the money never even gonna hit your hand in that circumstance. They just take it right out of the cash value account and they hit you with the 6 to 8% interest that you got to pay back. So that's 4 of the 5 rules that you'll find. The 5th one is that when you pass away, remember there was a face amount, maybe $50,000, $100,000. Then there was a cash value account, $5,000, $10,000. Your family never even knew about the cash value account. They so happy about the 50 or the 100,000, they didn't realize the company kept the cash value account, because the last rule says that that money was only meant for you to borrow from. So in the event that you pass, the lesser amount goes back to the company. Because remember, rule number 3 said that you have to pay 6 to 8% to borrow your own money. When you borrow something, you got to give it back. So the last rule says that we get to keep the cash value account, because remember, rule number 3 said it was only meant for you to borrow. So that's why you never want a cash value policy of any sort. I don't care what company is offering it to you. It could be your grandparents' company. If it's cash value, aka whole life insurance or universal or IUL, don't do it. You should never buy life insurance as an investment product. It's not meant for that. That's why you have investment firms to give you investment accounts. 401ks, Roth IRAs, 403bs, 457s, traditional IRAs, 529s for your children, SEPs, Simples, if you own small businesses. There's, so many different types, Keogh plans. There's so many different types of investment accounts you can actually have. Life insurance is not one of them. It's only meant for protection. Your life insurance should never promise to pay you a dividend. A real dividend comes when an investment company makes a profit and they decide to let you share in it. If you are said to get dividends from a life insurance policy, all that is money that you overpaid into the policy that the company is giving you back. Don't be fooled. So there's several reasons as to why you don't want a life insurance policy that is technically cash value. But at the end of the day, most people will tell you, well, we can help you circumvent taxes. We can help you circumvent taxes. We can help you retire. We can help you send your kids to college. All these things might be true, but you have to ask them, what are you forfeiting in the process of you allowing them to take your money and put it into a cash value account? When your money goes into a cash value policy, you lose all control of it from that point on, and it no longer belongs to you. So, on the wrap up, what I would say, y'all, is when you build a financial house and you start from the ground up, really, like, let's say you just started from day one, like, all right, Steph, thanks for 4 episodes of information. I appreciate it, but where do I start? Foundation. You can't put the walls, the windows, or the roof in without the foundation. Your foundation is your income protection. Your foundation is your life insurance, your term life insurance. The longest term you can get, 30 or 35 years, not a 5, not a 10, not a 15, not a 20. And it will depend on your age. It will depend on your health. So those things are to be discussed. But the longest term that you can find, get your foundation in place. From there, you can start to put in a budget. You can start to save in an emergency fund. You can start to save in a short-term investment account, right? For kids' college and things like that. You can then level up to start to save for retirement, tax-free and tax deferred. You can then put your roof on, get you a will, then get you a trust. Really make sure you're protecting your assets for future, right? And then your cherry on top is when you start wealth building. So I done took care of my generation. I done took care of my kids. Now can I take care of my grandkids and my grandkids' grandkids? So, building a financial house is a process. It involves patience. It involves intentionality. It involves diligence. But at the end of the day, it's doable. I mean, our ancestors did it. I mean, there's people today that do it that look just like you and I. And we might have started, like behind the mark. We might have been in lane 8, it's been raining, and they done put some everything else on the track in front of us. Our hurdles are higher. You see what I'm saying? We got to run 400 meters instead of 2.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I mean, what you gonna do? Pick your heart. You could be broke and be mad, or you could be legacy building and mad. So pick one.
Sis, I can't thank you enough for the free game you just gave. I do want to say this before we get up out of here.
Yeah.
I am pissed that I'm shocked, but I'm extremely proud of you. It is so much gain that you just said, not just through the 4 parts, but just today. You know what I'm saying? Because you made a very good point when you started with Tulsa, is that there is a misconception that the Black community is ignorant when it comes to finances.
Right.
I never agreed with that, but
Mm,
you painted it clearly when you put up the stats, you put up the professions that there was private plane ownership, there was doctors, there was lawyers, there's printing press. You know, it is. I thank you for saying that. I thank you for sharing that bit of history as well as just your wealth of knowledge when it comes to the financial arena. Because you said it earlier, like less than 5%
yeah,
of black professional financiers or financiers. You
yeah,
know,
yeah. It's sad.
we need foundation,
Mm-hmm.
and just like in real estate, location, location, location.
Yeah.
Um, we talk about this bag. We talk about building generational wealth.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have to have foundation, foundation, foundation.
Yes.
But like you said, we gotta understand what happened in the past so we can understand where we're going. So we don't keep falling for those same loop-de-loos banana in the tailpipe. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
Because that will always be, our downfall. So again, sis, thank you so much for your knowledge. Let me
Always.
let me say thank you for having the vision
Mm.
to see how important it was, and then thank you for putting in the work
Mm-hmm.
to learn it and
Mm-hmm.
then to share it.
Yes.
Everything is for a reason, and I see that in you, and I appreciate that. I want to make sure you hear it from me. Like
Thank
we
you.
all we all say we want to do something, but show me some action, man. I'm showing me some
Right.
action. Don't sit here and
Right.
tell me, you know what I'm saying? So this, I can't thank you enough. I know we gotta go, but again, I just feel like, man, everything you said was so spot on, and I hope young
Thank
folks,
you.
if you listen, and even older folks, you learn something from it. We're at 8:08. My grandson is hobbling around in the bathtub, splashing, making a mess. I'm sure. Sis, any last? It doesn't have to be financial. Whatever on your heart.
Yeah.
Go ahead and if you want to shout out your family, whatever. I don't. It's your world. You do what you do what you got to do, sis.
Man, let's see. Last words. Happy Women's Empowerment Month. Like, shout out to my women and those who identify as such. Black History should be all year, not just a month. So I'm still saying Happy Black History Year. And I think I'm just grateful. Thank you, Smith. Thank you for the platform. Thank you for the ability just to be able to share in knowledge and thought partnership. I'm sure it won't be the last time that we connect, but like I'm always so grateful to spend time around people who have a vision just more grand than I do. And so just thank you. I can't wait for people to learn from this information. And whenever you need me to serve, I will show up. So thank you for doing what you're doing because it's definitely in divine purpose.
Thank you, sis. Appreciate you
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah,
I'm
for
gonna just
sure.
leave you on the screen right there while I take us up out of here.
Okay.
But it'd be remiss of me if I didn't acknowledge a couple of things really quick. Just the
Hmm.
power of Black women, and their influence and impact on our society in totality. Please understand this, people, if you're listening and you share. Um, our Black women, say what you want, have run this country since the birth of this country. Don't let it be misunderstood that there was just property owning white men just running around taking care of business. The part that they don't want to tell you is most of those property owning white men had a Black woman in the stable somewhere running their household. I just
Facts.
want to say that. I just want to say that. You know what I'm saying? Um, you can't sit here and tell me that a Black woman can't run your Fortune 500 company when she can manage a budget of $250 with two children in the house with rent, transportation, food, and other bills. So don't sit here and run drag on me that we're incompetent, that my sisters are incompetent. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I seen my mom work. I see my
Mhm.
sister. I seen my daughter. I seen my wife work. I seen sis work. I seen sis out there doing this. You can't sit here and tell me that it don't sit here and tell me that. I can't accept it. And for the fact that we want to go to the highest rooftop and say that America is the most progressive country in the world, still got the black woman making less than 60 cents to the dollar that a white man makes. Man, get up out my face with that. I don't want to hear you talk about progressive anymore until you put black sisters at the top of the billing when we talk about money. All right, that's what I had to say.
Ooh, we need about 45 more minutes of that.
I'm gonna get there one day. I'm gonna get there. Beautiful black people. Everything I do, it's not about me. It's about you, and that's why I bring wonderful human beings in here like sis. And we're gonna keep it going. This ended this particular Black Dollar series, but as you well know, I got Black Madness March happening right now. This coming Sunday, I got a wonderful sister girl gonna come on and just talk about relationships, whether it's divorce, whether it's separation, whether it's building a relationship, starting and getting to the root cause of some of the drama that a lot of spouses go through. So it's going to be very in depth. It's going to be very hit the house, because I want to be positive, and the only way we can positive is to get to the cancer and get to the root of the cancer and get it out of there. We can't keep talking about we're going to be positive, but we ain't addressing some of the negative. You know what I'm saying? So that's where I'm at. We getting up out of here. I promise. Hit the like, subscribe, share it. Tap in with sis. Send me an email. I'll put you in touch with her. She's phenomenal. She's doing her thing. She just left Harvard. She might soon, in a few coming short years, she might be an actual pre-med student at Harvard. I'm not saying if, it will happen, because it will happen. Sis, I'll tap in with you, beautiful black people. Before I get out of here, you know how I get down. Go have a conversation with somebody that don't look or sound like you. And if you shut up and listen, you just might learn something. Beautiful black people, we out, and I love you.